Good evening, Lunaticks, and welcome to episode 17, live at the Foghorn.
And welcome to the Lunaticks Live 2019. It's episode 17. There's a bit of discussion as to whether it should be series 3, episode 1, but we're not going to haggle about that. But I am joined here again by the fabulous Olivia Ollie. Welcome.
Thank you, Greg Hall. Yes, here we are.
And I think we might put you on.
Why, hello there. 2019, the first episode of the year. Quite exciting because we're talking about grassroots support in the ecosystem of all things tech. So it's a fun topic to start on, don't you think?
Well, the technical term or the technical title that everyone saw on Eventbrite would have been Ecosystem Support for Grassroots Organisations.
That is true.
But are we here to tease out the seedlings, sort of get something happening?
Well, I think we're here to look at grassroots and what that means and how that evolves the ecosystem. That's why I'm here.
Okay, great.
Why are you here?
Well, I'm here to do that very thing. But more than that, we have to say thanks to all the fantastic support we've had so far. We're back here with the great support of a lot of backers and supporters, and we just need to mention those. So a big thanks to the University of Newcastle, the Business Centre, Growthwise, the City of Newcastle. That's the new trend now, the new brand, City of Newcastle. That's great, I like it. We're talking about Bar TV again, Production Hub, and Pitch Perfect Media are all part of this fantastic group. And we'd just like to say we're introducing the new Twitter, our new Twitter wall feature. So we're encouraging people out there to tweet us and use either the hashtag Lunaticks Live or Newy Startups hashtags as well. Right. There's another one as well, hashtag Lunaticks Live EP17. So if you can do that, and we'll try to endeavour to take your questions and incorporate them into our discussion with our guests, which are going to be very, very interesting because the folks we're going to be talking to tonight have actually really, they've fired up their enthusiasm and been fired in that crucible of challenge, which is the local ecosystem. So who are our wonderful guests joining us tonight?
Tonight we have the wonderful Heath Rafferty, who is a part of IoT Pioneers, which will be a really interesting discussion on kind of how the Internet of Things is working and how meetup groups can help invent amazing things. We're also talking with Cameron Owen from Blast Furnace. And Blast Furnace is a really cool coding get-together where they eat pizza and code things. Greg?
Right, so, okay, so the question will be that we really want to know, we have machine learning, so everyone just comes for the pizza? I mean,
Maybe.
Do you really have to work that hard?
Well, it's also fun coding.
That's right. And also joining us is going to be Emily Moscovitz and Emily Davis O'Sullivan, and they're from Idea Bombing, Newcastle. So the question I'm going to be asked, idea, why singular? What about plural? Do you think it's been cheeky?
I don't know whether it's a typo on our end or their end, so I don't want to tease out.
Well, all will be revealed in our upcoming show. So we've got some fabulous guests, but of course, who's here? There's somebody else.
Well, it's Chad Ramage, also known as Rad Damage, to talk about tech news.
Oh, no. You've been working on that one, haven't you?
Oh, just a little bit. That's fine.
So Chad's here going to be doing our tech news, and I think you have some interesting things to share with us, won't you?
I do. So let's have a chat about that when we get back from the intro.
And if we don't have an intro, we'll talk about the Newy Awards, which is always the flagship thing.
Good evening, Lunaticks, and welcome to episode 17 live at the Foghorn. So it's an exciting time of year for those Samsung fanatics. We've had the introduction of all of the new bits of tech coming out over the next month. So later on in the year, obviously, we'll have the Apple launch and everything, but this is the time for fun for Samsung Lunaticks. So let's get stuck into it and have a look at the releases for the S10 phone. So if we have a look at pre-order prices coming out, the baby of the bunch, the S10e, is going to be looking at about $11.99. So that one's going to have a 5.8-inch screen, 2 rear cameras, and 128 gig of storage. The display now takes up 90% of the device, so it's really starting to get pretty impressive of how much we're able to look at our information on the screens. The S10, so kind of the flagship model, is $18.49. That can get up to 512 gig of space. And the top of the line one will be, that one was the $18.49 and up to 1 terabyte of space. So there is going to be a 5G version of the phone coming out within the next 6 months, but that one is looking at upwards of $2,500 to $3,000 as well. So let's head over to the headphones that will be coming out. So these ones are going to be really impressive as well, that as far as the new devices are concerned, they have wireless charging on the back of the phones. So between these headphones and the smart watch that will come out with it, you are able to charge on the actual device. And we have seen some very cheeky photos of iPhone users charging their phones off the back of one of the new S10 devices. So the really interesting fold device that came out of the Expo is the device that you can actually use the front of it as a smartphone, and it folds out to the 7.3-inch display. So that's going to be absolutely massive, that we can use multiple applications across the screen, whether that be Maps, WhatsApp, Office tools. It's going to be a really serious bit of hardware, but that is looking at the $3,000 to $3,500 price range. So very much for the early adopters, and Huawei definitely has their Fold device coming out as well, and 5G at the same time as well. So that's the 5G network's really starting to come to life, but it really does come with that price tag.
So the other thing, a bit of tech news though, a little bit of personal news, you had a bit of a success with a pitch. So tell us about that, Jan.
Yeah, so through Singularity University, I've been wildcarded into their boot camp this weekend and have an opportunity to go through to maybe pitch down in Melbourne next week. So lots happening there.
Wow, so this is part of your project, was it the...
Yeah, so this is accessibility in the city. So we're building an online mapping platform for those with accessibility issues. So you can jump onto the website and have a look at accessibilityinthecity.com.au, and I'll fire that up onto the Twitter wall once we finish up here. But yeah, there are lots of exciting things happening even in the region. The Business Centre has their Start House Incubator applications are now open, and there's an event here at the Foghorn coming up this Thursday.
Thursday, 28th at 6 p.m.
It is 8 a.m.
Oh, 8 a.m. Yeah, sorry, my apologies. It's the morning one.
So
and then
yes,
in the evening there's a 6 p.m. with the new tech startups.
Yeah,
that's
so
fantastic.
If you are interested, jump on, register, get on down here.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more detail after our ad break, which is coming up.
All right. Welcome to the Business Centre. My name's Paulina Mangano and I'm one of the business advisors here at the Business Centre. We've been doing what we do for over 34 years, and what we do is help business. Whether you're thinking of starting a business, you'd like to scale up, you'd like to go into a different direction, we're here to help. The first thing that we focus on is asking you, what is it that you want? We work out where you're at, and then we help you get there. So we've got all the tools that you need, and more importantly, we can sit with you and work out which tools are going to work best specifically for you. So there's no general template, there's no this is what you do for every business, because I think, as we all know, there's no one fit. So we work out what works for you, and we're there to guide you along the way. So we'd love to see you at the Business Centre. We can help you with your business. We're not for profit, so you're our focus, and looking forward to seeing you. Thanks very much.
I'm majoring in leadership and management, and I've got a real focus on social innovation, as there's a push for businesses to be socially responsible. So 3 years ago I started a business called Eat Your Water. It's a surf brand that's come out of Newcastle, and we now sell essentially worldwide. I started it more so as a platform I could use to preach a sort of social conscious about marine conservation, thinking outside of just about profit. It's about thinking about the environment, people around you. There's a perception that starting a business is really difficult, but UON's resources and support really make it so much easier. Students from different ranges of backgrounds, and I guess bouncing those ideas off one another, it really helps when you collaborate. It just allows that process to be so much easier.
Welcome back to the Lunaticks Live. We're coming to you from the Foghorn Brewhouse here in fantastic King Street, Newcastle. And it's a really busy place at the time. And as you can hear, all the people back behind us. Also, they have a lot of events happening here as well during the week. So you should come down and check out the Foghorn Brewhouse. Olivia, we're back. We're here with our first guest.
Yes, yeah, we're back. Well, I'd love to introduce Cameron Owen, the founder of Blast Furnace. Cameron, you're a computer engineer.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of background about yourself and how you came to host these events?
So I was a graduate from the University of Newcastle, so I did computer engineering there, and then from after graduation I started working in the industry as a programmer in big companies and small companies, and I guess generally I've just always had a passion for coding. And what I started to do in my spare time is coding competitions and sort of tinkering with your own things at home automation, things like that. And I was really looking for a meetup or some sort of event where I could go and hang out with, not just hang out with coders and talk to people, but then maybe actually code together and work on projects or do competitions. So I guess I'm sort of segueing into where the Blast Furnace came from and why that I started the meetup.
Yeah, I love your concept. It's you say code, compete, and collaborate.
Yes.
That's really wonderful. How have you found it has helped you just as a coder by being involved in collaborative get-togethers?
So for me, with the Blast Furnace, probably one of the biggest advantages I get out of it is meeting like-minded people and meeting other coders, but not just people that are already in the industry or maybe in an intermediate to advanced level, but we're also seeing a lot of people that are trying to get into it, that are just getting interested in it. And that's I guess the way we built the meetup was for all skill levels. So I guess for me, one of the most positive things that's come out of the meetup was getting new people into coding and building the tech community in Newcastle, trying to grow it a bit more, which is probably one of the key goals for the meetup as well.
So the reality is machine learning, the need for anyone to code. I mean, what's the point? I mean, particularly me as a non-coder. I mean, I've dabbled a little bit, very, very tiny. But I mean, the reality is now machine learning, the capacity for us to even do that. Why do that?
So why do we need coders?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of hype around machine learning and AI, but I think there's still a big road to travel before the machines are writing their own code, before Skynet really takes hold, right? So I think, and I mean, even if you're not looking for a coder, I bet you probably know someone that's looking for a coder as well. So the idea that we can try and grow and build the coding community in Newcastle was something that really drove this, and then also the concept of having an interactive meetup. But I think at the end of the day, whilst machine and learning and AI really are taking hold and coming leaps and bounds. For a long time, any business, and as we move forward, nearly any business is going to need a coder for some aspect of what they're trying to do, whether they're trying to build a product or just trying to increase the way they advertise, improve SEO on their website. They're all coding-based occupations.
So I just got a comment about the food selection.
Yeah, sure.
Because the one thing that always strikes me about a lot of films that are made about the early history of computers, etc., it's Coke and pizza.
Yep.
And then I look at the men used down the track, and I think they could have done with some, perhaps a banana or a bit of greens. So you're thinking about, what about your vegetarians? I mean, you have vegetarian pizza, but that's a disaster. Frankly, I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's. I guess the Subway option was probably a bit harder to try and tackle for the coding community, and I have a very specific demographic that I want to hit there. So the pizza, I think, definitely attributes to at least half the attendance.
Right. So perhaps, Olivia, you can ask some serious questions now.
Yeah, I find it interesting you're trying to get coders out of a job before it's even like...
No, well, what we should have done,
like,
every
it's
time we
huge,
mention
but, yeah.
Skynet, we have to take a drink.
Oh, okay, that's a fun game. Yeah, so the concept is that people turn up, is it monthly? Yeah, turn up monthly at the Stag and Hunter. It's a BYO computer. Grab yourself a slice of pizza, hopefully a beer, because that could be fun too, and then just code away, yeah?
So the business centre.
Oh, yeah.
So the locations there. So the business centre is
my bad, sorry.
That's all right. But the business centre is like the spot, pretty much the sponsor we have, and they provide the venue. So every second Thursday, we're running the blast furnace from the business centre. Typically, every second Thursday. This next one happens to be the first one we're doing on the third Thursday. So I just want to mention that. I know that's probably going to confuse people now, but typically every second Thursday at the business centre, rock up. It doesn't matter if you've never coded before or you're a veteran. We cover the full range by basically splitting the first half of the event into two parallel streams, one for beginners, one for intermediate to advanced, where we're doing competitions and projects. And then the second half of the event, or the last hour and a half, is sort of a collaboration where we're trying to bring both those ends of the spectrum together to learn from each other.
Oh, wow.
So
Great.
I'm going to ask a hard question here. The business centre, is it the one on the ground floor, or is it the one up with the stairs?
Up the stairs.
Up the stairs.
It's the up the stairs one, yeah.
So I'm just wondering, are we going to look at a possibility of incorporating a broader possibility of other people? I'm just thinking it's a bit hard if you've got a wheelchair, for example, or difficulty of mobility.
Yeah, and we actually have done that. So the museum has expressed interest in potentially giving us a venue to run blast furnace events, maybe more targeted, less to the meet-up schedule and more to maybe a school holiday sort of plan.
Okay.
But the format's quite good for nearly any age group. We do sort of like to see coders that can use a computer, as in, you can type and you have some competency with regards to starting up and opening a website, but that's pretty much where you can come in at.
So there was a Twitter question came in. So is it either too soon or too late to start to learn a bit about coding, and what is the actual coding language you're using?
All right, so that's a great question. I don't think it's ever too soon or too late at this in this sort of era of technology, especially with the concept of freelancing and remote work. Like age doesn't really come into it. If you can start learning and start writing good code now, it doesn't really matter what age it is. That doesn't really get shown in the work. It's just, does it run? Does it do what the task was that you're intending it to do? With regards to the languages, the beauty of the blast furnace is every month we get a different industry professional to present on, and that goes from the beginner stream back around to the collaboration stream, where they'll actually do sort of a demo where you can follow along, and we'll cover different languages and different technologies. But if you have a specific language and you want to come and do the coding competitions and start building up points on the blast furnace leaderboard, you can choose from 1 or 24 different languages.
So the leaderboard is that broadcast right across the community? I mean, sort of into the web, or is it just within the venue?
No. So the whole blast furnace event is powered by Cypherlinks. So cypherlinks.com/blastfurnace, and you can go on there and see the leaderboard, and you can actually look at which Newcastle coders are up the top, and when you click on their link, it'll take you to their Cypherlinks profile where you can actually see the breakdown, what competitions they've done, what languages they've probed in, where they rank not only overall but for each language in Newcastle as well.
Okay.
Because the topic is grassroots and the support of the digital industry. How do you feel? How do you feel the role for you and running these events? Just can you comment on the value that you feel it's bringing to the community?
So, yeah, for me, I guess one of the slightly difficult parts is obviously funding some of it. So, as I mentioned, the Business Centre sponsors it. They give us the venue for free, which is it's actually quite a big deal because it's hard to find not only like a free, like a venue that's free as in available, but with then also the facilities of internet and power and the space to accommodate people. But then, you know, the concept of it is I don't want people to have to pay for it. I think to build the community, we need to encourage people for free. I don't want people to think that they're giving their money and someone else is putting it in their pocket. But then, so we've got to pay for the pizza and the drinks. So that sort of comes in through sponsorship, but that's the hard part. I think that's for the grassroots stuff where you're sort of doing it off your own back and your own time. Unfortunately, it's really hard to do things for free that then also translate into either real value or real enjoyment.
We've got another Twitter question for you. How do we find out more about Blast Furnace?
So there's a couple of ways. Jump on the Meetup app. So as a grassroots meetup, we're on the Meetup app. So just search for Blast Furnace on the Meetup app. Or you can go to cypherlinks.com and there's a link to the page there which also has all the event details, and you'll be able then to, from there, connect to the Slack channel as well, where we post announcements and have chats about the events and coding in general.
I'd like to pick up on what you were saying before about how running grassroots anything is quite hard. It's very, very time consuming and there's not, money straight away. Do you feel that this is a way, because I imagine there's a lot of startups or a lot of kind of people with great ideas and they want to come here and meet. Do you find this is a really great platform to maybe find collaborators or at least just find people of your own tribe?
Yes, yeah. I think at the core that's what all the meetups are. They sort of, they're themed one way or the other, and whether you're interested in IoT or just coding in general, you go there and you find similar-minded people. But for the blast furnace, it was about also trying to help people maybe understand the technology. So one of the big drivers for building it was people maybe trying to develop their own products or apps or something, but not really understanding the technology, and then getting ripped off by companies that are charging really large amounts of money for really simple, at the end of the day, really simple code. So we get a bit of that as well, where we just start blending with people that maybe they're not coders, but they're just interested in building tech. And then, well, as coders, we're interested in building tech, so you sort of start to bridge that those two groups where maybe you wouldn't have done so before.
So just setting aside Blast Furnace, your actual business is Cypherlink, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
So what does that do specifically?
So Cypherlinks is a platform that coders can sign up to, and it basically automatically generates them an online resume based on their actual skills or actual code they've written or actual rankings in third-party sites, top Coder and Code Wars. So it basically conglomerates third-party information into an always up-to-date online resume. And the purpose of it is to not only be able to find coders in the local community, but quickly assess what level of coder that is. And the flip side to it is also you can find jobs on there. So for recruiters, they can go on and advertise work directly to the coding community. And because it's a Newcastle-based business, it's got Newcastle-based coders on it. So that's what we're really focusing on, trying to capture the whole Newcastle tech community on there.
Well, that's a really great idea.
Well, Cameron,
we'll just wrap up with one final question. It's just quite simply, when is the next blast furnace?
So the next blast furnace is the 21st of March, and at the Business Centre, and jump on the Meetup app if you want to track the details and see the announcements and emails as they come through.
Awesome. Thanks, Cameron.
No,
Thanks
thank
for
you
joining
very
us.
much.
Really appreciate it.
really appreciate it. Thanks,
Cheers.
Cameron. Well, you're here at Lunaticks Live. We're just going to cut to an ad break, and we'll be back to you shortly with our remaining guests.
Welcome to the Business Centre. My name's Paulina Mangano and I'm one of the business advisors here at the Business Centre. We've been doing what we do for over 34 years, and what we do is help business. Whether you're thinking of starting a business, you'd like to scale up, you'd like to go into a different direction, we're here to help. The first thing that we focus on is asking you, what is it that you want? We work out where you're at, and then we help you get there. So we've got all the tools that you need, and more importantly, we can sit with you and work out which tools are going to work best specifically for you. So there's no general template, there's no, this is what you do for every business, because I think, as we all know, there's no one fit. So we work out what works for you, and we're there to guide you along the way. So we'd love to see you at the Business Centre. We can help you with your business. We're not for profit, so you're our focus, and looking forward to seeing you. Thanks very much.
I'm majoring in leadership and management, and I've got a real focus on social innovation, as there's a push for businesses to be socially responsible. So 3 years ago I started a business called Eat Your Water. It's a surf brand that's come out of Newcastle, and we now sell essentially worldwide. I started it more so as a platform I could use to preach a sort of social conscience about marine conservation, thinking outside of just about profit. It's about thinking about the environment, people around you. There's a perception that starting in business is really difficult, but UON's resources and support really make it so much easier. Students from different ranges of backgrounds, and I guess bouncing those ideas off one another, it really helps when you collaborate. It just allows that process to be so much easier.
Testing.
Welcome back to Lunaticks Live, episode 17, also known as episode 1 of season 3, 2019.
Good. She's starting to work with me. That's great.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I like it. Season 3, episode 1.
Because we know winter's coming, isn't it?
Winter is coming. Here we are, we're back, and we're here with the wonderful Heath Rafferty, who is having your second guest appearance on the Lunaticks Live, I believe.
We were just reminiscing, weren't we?
Yeah, no, I think it was around security.
Oh, you've got a good memory.
Yeah, well
Issues,
done,
yeah,
well
because it
done.
was a follow-on from one of your events that I actually happened to moderate.
We go a long way back.
Way out. It was way out of my depth of field anyway.
Heath, you are the founder of the IoT, Internet of Things Pioneers, and also New Ventures. Can you give us a little bit of a background, bit of insight of IoT Pioneers?
Sure, yeah. So Newcastle IoT Pioneers started 2.5 years ago now, and like a lot of these initiatives, I think it was designed to scratch an itch that I had. We'd launched into this world of the Internet of Things for commercial reasons, and we were looking at the landscape, and we were seeing all these people saying, we're going here, we're doing this, and we were working in that field and encountering all these obstacles, and we thought, we can't be the only ones. We can't be the only ones actually trying to do things here and encountering all these things that don't actually work in practice. So why don't we join together, share stories, share wins and losses, and see if we can all achieve something more collectively.
Yeah, so you catch up once a month at the Stag and Hunter, and how does it go? Is it just an informal get together, or like how do I come along and what do I do?
It's pretty casual. I mean, it's designed to be a welcoming group that attracts a diverse audience. It's in a pub, which sort of sets the theme, and it's in this nice heritage room upstairs in the pub. And we start with just the general get-together, chit-chat, and then launch into a news segment, quite like what you do here. And then we always have a guest speaker, at least one guest speaker, who presents on a particular topic of their interest. And I give them strict instructions to make sure that their presentation is pitched at a general audience and that we're interested in the general takings away of what they've been investigating it, so that we can all get something out of it. We put on food, and people tend to hang around and buy a drink from the bar and socialise and network afterwards.
And that all happens in Mayfield.
Of course,
the Stag and Hunter was built in 1928, and it's fantastic.
Indeed,
and family-run pub too.
Yeah. So it's even though it's called Newcastle IoT Pioneers, it's greater Newcastle. It's we get a lot of attention from Central Coast, from the Hunter Valley, from Lake Macquarie, as well as Newcastle City, and that's deliberate. We want to attract people from all those areas, and we have had some people who express some delight that there is a meetup they can go to, which is on the outskirts of Newcastle, and they can visit it from the freeway.
Well, it's quite interesting, given that Mayfield was very much the industrial, but it actually used to be known as the Toorak of Newcastle in the late 1800s. I couldn't believe this. I read this piece. So, I mean, it's a place of very odd sort of history to some extent.
There's a lot of eclectic history around there. Yeah, absolutely.
While Mayfield is a very exciting topic, Greg, I'm wondering if you could give us some background, just what Internet of Things, what does that even mean?
Yeah, sure. So it means a lot of things to a lot of people, and it means a whole lot of nothing to a lot of people as well. It really is a very, very broad name that's given to any technology that's associated with taking otherwise passive, dumb things and augmenting them with the ability to sense the world around them and deliver that sense, deliver that intelligence to the internet so that we can act on it. So classic example is a garage door, which is a fairly dumb thing. It goes up and it goes down. But what can we do if that garage door knows whether it's up or knows whether it's down and communicates that to the internet? Well, then when I'm at work and I think, oh God, did I close the garage door? I can check on the internet. My app tells me whether my garage door is open or closed. I have a delivery from a Coles online, a supermarket or something or other, and I'm not home. That's okay. Drop it in the garage. I can operate my garage door from the internet. So it's about augmenting the world around us with smarts using the power of the internet.
Do you then get ads on Facebook to buy security for your home because you keep leaving the door?
If someone can make a buck from it, then they'll do it. Yeah.
Cool.
So effectively, though, the whole Internet of Things, IoT, is very much an international, it's a global phenomenon at this stage. I mean, in the big scheme of things, where does sort of a regional area sit in that conversation? Because some of the topics we've had has included some fascinating world-leading experts, particularly around security, and that's the big area. But where does the region, Newcastle, the Hunter, sort of fit in that conversation?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. That's a fantastic question, and it speaks to the reason for being for a Newcastle IoT Pioneer. So I think we live in a country that even subconsciously thinks that technology is something you buy from overseas. It comes out of China somewhere, and we export raw materials that we generate from the land. And I think in the 21st century that thinking has to change a little bit, and there is absolutely an opportunity for regional areas to generate innovation that then they can export to the rest of the world. And the Internet of Things is a classic example of that. It's an example of technology that can be applied to niches that this region are experts, world experts in. So niches like agriculture and mining and primary industries. Niches that can really be augmented by the Internet of Things technology that can be developed here, implemented here, and then exported to the rest of the world.
I was thinking about the issue of cities and the notion of security within them, because the smart lighting systems that have been put in, which can adjust to the traffic in there coming in. It's all that. So I guess in some ways, what we trade off in terms of having that technology there is the positive, which is people having a greater sense of security, places where they feel safe. I mean, do you feel that's a good argument, or you think we're sort of expecting something too much from the technology?
Look, it's a really deep conversation, and I think historically we've only had a certain audience contributing to that discussion. And I think that's what's put us in this situation we have now, where we're facing this oncoming tech backlash. The major technology providers around the world have not earned the social license to make these decisions on behalf of the public, and we're seeing people reacting with suspicion and concern, and rightly so. So one of the big agenda items for Newcastle IoT Pioneers is to make sure that anyone who's affected by the Internet of Things has an opportunity to learn about what they're affected by and contribute to the discussion. And guess what? That's everyone. That's not just tech people. It's not just programmers. It's not just people that are already skilled in these sorts of technologies. It's everyone that's potentially affected by these things, and they have a right to influence where this goes.
So basically, anyone can attend the Internet of Things Pioneers when you meet.
Absolutely, and if anyone feels that they're not in the audience, that they're not welcome, then that's my failing, and we need to change that. So if and we continually work to it. We're not perfect at it, but we continue to work to be welcoming to people from all sorts of backgrounds, and make sure that the camaraderie, the networking, the presentations are all addressed in a way that they can consume.
Because in terms of the Internet, the pioneer of IoT pioneers, and even to some extent the conversation we have with the Lunaticks, for example, and Blast Furnace, it's very much a gendered conversation, isn't it?
Yes.
But last year you ran a session which was moderated by female panels. They talked about those issues affecting women. So how did that go?
It was a step in the right direction. It was a big step in the right direction. We didn't get everything right, but one of the big things that we did get right was that all editorial control was handed over to those invited members of the Fair Agenda. So it was a lady host and a lady presenter, and they got the opportunity to run the show in the way that they wanted. I certainly didn't do everything right, and things could have gone better, but the outcome was absolutely spectacular. We got a really diverse audience. We got people from the problem space, people from the solution space, people from industry, people from tech, all sharing ideas in amongst themselves, and it was an excellent event, and the more we can do to encourage that sort of outcome, the better.
While we're waiting for more Twitter feed questions to come through, one of the questions that we were kind of talking about pre catching up with you is, how do you feel that IoT Pioneers can make a difference to the local innovation community?
Well, I'd like to think that it already is in a small way. One thing that we do every year is that we run a survey of our members, which is a great way of understanding people's level of understanding of the Internet of Things, their applications of the Internet of Things, and where they'd like to see things go. We provide a forum that encourages local government, local industry, as well as members of the community to participate in the one forum, and there's a real meeting of minds that occurs. The event that you were referring to was a great example of that, where we had people from various industries who wouldn't normally come to an event like that, as well as people that show up every month, in the same room together, and the conversations that happen and the things that spark from those sorts of interactions contribute to the innovation community.
So it's a monthly event. So the next one's coming up when?
The first Thursday. So it's the first Thursday of every month.
Every
It'll
month.
be the first Thursday in March.
And that kicks off around 6 o'clock?
6:30, I think.
6:30.
Yeah, 6:30. I'll be there from 6. You're welcome to come
Set
along
up.
at 6. But,
Well, I've got to say,
officially 6:30.
well, the great thing about what you guys do is that you've created effectively a Dropbox, or I think you use is it another
Box.
or box. You use Box. So all of the material that's presented is actually loaded up there, and everyone's attended can actually access that information.
Where the presenters give us permission, and it's almost been 100% so far. So there is a wealth of material there, for people to review what went on.
Yeah, no, I found that really invaluable, particularly when after we did the security one, I went back to that and I thought, oh, so that's what they meant.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you, Heath. Thanks for jumping on. And for those who want to know more about the Internet of Things pioneers, turn up and have a chat.
Yeah, they're at the Stag and Hunter on Mayfield, on the corner of Hanbury and Maitland Road.
Well done. You're quite right.
That's right.
We're going to jump to an ad break and we'll be back with the lovely ladies from Idea Bombing.
And welcome back to the Lunatics Live here from the Foghorn Brewhouse. You can hear the buzz is starting to gather and people are eating and enjoying themselves here. I'm here with Olivia. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, you're here?
Yeah, sure.
And also joining us up here are our two other guests. We have Stephanie and we have Emily, and they're the co-founders of Idea Bombing.
Yes,
What
that's
about
right.
Ideas Bombing? I mean, tell us about it.
Well, Steph and I started Idea Bombing back in, I think it was 2014. We've been running for about 5 years. And essentially both of us went to school together, and we grew up here and then left, as many people do. We came back about 10 years later, and we knew there was lots of cool things going on in Newcastle, but we sort of were dancing around the edges and didn't sort of know how to get involved. My friend from university, John, actually had started Idea Bombing in Sydney, and it seemed like a great way to meet people, a great way to get involved in different things that were going on in the community. And I thought, well, we thought it would have great application up here. So I asked him to put on an event, and he basically fobbed it back onto us and said, why don't you start your own chapter? So we did. And yeah, I guess, as I say, the rest is history. We've been running them ever since, and it's opened a lot of doors for us, and we love it, basically, having never run an event before. So,
All right, so you actually new to the whole process of running events? And
yes.
oh, look, I'm a bit surprised, actually. It was pretty smooth, the ones I've seen so far. So
Thank you. But we actually hadn't been to an event in Sydney of his either, so we actually flew by the seat of our pants in full form, and yeah, we're like, we have to keep on doing this. That was heaps of fun.
Okay.
So what's the principle of Idea Bombing? Like, how does an event look? What do you guys literally do?
So the purpose is to basically get a bunch of very random people together to start the conversation on a specific topic. So we've looked at a range of different topics, and the format is sort of appropriate to each topic depending on what it is. So we theme the whole night. It's usually around drinks and food as well. There's an opportunity for networking, and we usually have 4 or so speakers speaking on a specific topic. And we try and get quite a broad range of speakers to get different viewpoints, sometimes conflicting or, sometimes completely off the wall that you wouldn't expect. So that's generally how it runs. Do you want?
So think TED Talks meet pop-up bar / community engagement opportunity, but we don't give our participants a microphone, we give them pen and paper. So what they do, we ask our community to give back to the I guess, the topic. And they write down their idea and contribution, and we publicly put it up on a physical wall. So in a way, we democratise ideas. So we believe that ideas are a dime a dozen. It's what you do with them and turn them into action that counts. But by putting them up in a collective way, they're no longer yours, but a collective idea that emerges, that informs not just your own idea, but others around you.
So just in terms of the motivation to put this on, because organising an event, and this goes back to the heart of this discussion we've been having, everyone comes to it with a passion, straight up. But, I mean, what do you think, what was missing in the conversation you felt in Newcastle that you weren't hearing? And particularly from your perspective, I guess, Emily, as a town planner, I'd be interested to hear your take.
I believe that everyone should have a passionate opinion on a lot of issues. And that's probably me personally more than my profession. In fact, most of my profession would probably be like, shut up. But I think it's really important for people to own civic issues. So, we've talked a lot of issues around culture in Newcastle, around innovation, things like this that, like Heath was saying, actively affect each and every one of us. And so our core value, if you will, was that the attendees take ownership of these issues and realise that there are opportunities for them to take action, and they themselves may have some really great ideas around it, or they can trigger other ideas in other attendees, or, have an opportunity often to speak to the speakers who we get to the events who are actually the ones making the decisions around these things. So that was a key driver for me. Steph, I don't know if you had professional...
No, I definitely agree, but I think also a little bit selfishly, we were curious about topics, and we wanted to speak to people about it, and we took a risk and an assumption that other people wanted to hear from them too. So we sort of structured an event, and it was a way for us to not only get to know our community, because we were fresh in town and we actually didn't know who to speak to, what was happening. So it was a way for us to, I guess, kick the dust up a little bit.
Yeah, well, actually, the description here was Idea Bombing Newcastle, part talk series, part meetup, and part drinking session. So, I mean, I think it probably sums it up very nicely. But
yeah, but we make sure that beverage and food is always a part of the event. It's a good lubricator.
So in terms of the venues, you've run it in different places, is that right? So
yeah, so we try very purposefully to vary our locations. Similar sort of thing to the other speakers. It's hard to get a venue in Newcastle. It's hard to get a good space that we can hire autonomously, for free, preferably, and take control of and bring 100 people to on a weeknight. So there's a limited pool that we tend to draw from, but we do, where we can, try and vary the event location as well as everything else about it.
Sure.
Yeah. What do you have coming up for 2019?
We're really excited to be part of the Hunter Innovation Festival this year. So, we've got a few interesting gigs coming up, so you're going to have to just check our Facebook page for more secret details.
So Facebook is the principal place of contact
Yes.
for the events? Okay. Yeah. So you take advantage of all the data collection that goes on at the same time?
Yes, we do have a mailing list as well, emails, but primarily Facebook's probably the easiest way for people to find us, Idea Bombing Newcastle. We're also on Instagram, which is my preference, but each their own.
Guys, if you're watching or in the audience or at home, do tweet in. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But my question is, I've been to a few of your events, and I'm interested in... I've got a twofold question. Like, what's your feedback from people attending? But are you seeing any kind of on-flow or any changes post the event?
Definitely. And I think that's the value and benefit of grassroots organisations, their ability to be nimble and affect and influence. So early on, I think it was maybe our second event, we had it on the nighttime economy. And it was a really great opportunity to look at, I guess, policy that was being written, technology that was being created to create safe space, as well as other grassroots initiatives that were helping make Newcastle's nighttime economy interesting. And as a result, we actually held an event about 8 months later where we got a City Newcastle Make Your Place grant, where we actually got our community to vote for one of our feasible ideas, which turned into be a nighttime fiesta at Wheeler Place. And we worked with a whole range of stakeholders to bring about 5,000 people to that venue to stimulate the nighttime economy. And the idea was to look at, people experiencing cultural events who weren't going to stay out too late, families, people leaving work, as well as young people who are just beginning their evening. So to look at a way that we could cross-pollinate all those people at an intersection point that would stimulate a nighttime economy. So
to some extent, Steph, you're at the business centre as well.
I am.
So what is there a crossover between Emily's community and your community, or is it a case of, because I'm just thinking with previous two guest speakers, there seems to be quite clear demographics that are attracted to this. So what's the kind of group that you're attracting?
We attract a really varied community, and it's we really enjoy working with other grassroots organisations, but also council and university industry groups, because we know there's a really important exchange point in between each of them that, like I said, grassroots organisations have an opportunity to be nimble and autonomous, to be able to make those connections, share information. We are a little bit of a microphone to a broader community that they might not understand or have access to. So, yeah, well, my background is marketing and communications, but I'm really passionate about Newcastle and where it's evolving to, and how we're developing as a city and place. So. At work, I'm predominantly working with the business community and the startup culture, and but yeah, I think each of our events brings a really broad demographic, from students to people in their retirement who are just curious and passionate about Newcastle. So all of our events have a Novocastrian flavour, and that's what draws everyone together in a way that makes that audience so diverse.
Because one of the questions, or responding to some of the challenges, you mentioned getting a venue, doing it at a reasonable price, or if not for free. Yeah, we love that. But what are the other obstacles you've encountered in trying to build that grassroots activity?
I don't know. Promotion, I guess. So reaching new audiences. I think, it's easy to sort of follow it into a pattern and then you're sort of attracting the same people. But I think one solution we've found for that is actually collaborating with a really diverse range of stakeholders. So, partnering with the festival or partnering with another organisation that has the same ethics and values as you do.
We've had a tweet come in. We've touched on it briefly, but I think we could dig a bit deeper. Is there an appetite for this in Newcastle, and what outcomes are you seeing?
I think there's definitely an appetite. I mean, we've really enjoyed having a great number of events for the past 5 years, and I think that isn't going to dry up anytime soon, because there's always different topics that people want to talk about. And it's a great way to bring really broad community together to talk about one thing and not give the really loud voices time, and allow a lot of little discussions and very accessible discussions to people who the general Joe Blob on the street wouldn't necessarily get to have a chat to usually. And I think that's one of the real values, and I think that'll continue to be a real value of Idea Bombing. We have enjoyed kind of messing up the format, and that has, I think, breathed a bit of new life into it too for us, because that's part of the challenge with any grassroots is keeping that drive and momentum personally for putting these events on, where, like you say, there's a lot of challenges, and funding is one of them. finding venues is another, and constantly keeping going. You know, you need that new injection of energy every so often, and that's something that we've enjoyed doing through, broadening our scope, I guess.
So you're both working full time, busy. You brought Jack.
Yes.
Beautiful. He's going to be 6'4". I'm sure.
I hope so.
At what point do you, say, 2 weeks out from the event, does the energy just slip away and you think, oh, not again? Or
before the event, we are all guns blazing. It's the next day that we are just fall down in a heap. But after an incredible high, that's the great thing. You know, it doesn't matter the size of the event, you know, the question, whatever. We get always afterwards, we look at each other and we're like, wow, you know, that was great. That was a great thing to be part of, and we're just so lucky to be doing this, you know. Yeah.
What are some words of inspiration for like grassroots movement? Like it's such a hard slog, and you guys do it with such pizzazz. You know, like I think that's a bit of a theme. Like, how do we keep going? Like, is it to go to events and keep meeting people? Like I don't know. What's your thoughts?
For Emily and I, we've really been really realistic about our capacity and being really honest to that. So if you are organising a volunteer event or organisation, listen to that. And also, in terms of keeping on going,
no.
We'll just do it. You know, if someone has a great idea, I can't say it strongly enough, just do it, because, you know, the world will be a better place if you do. Someone once said to me, if it's worth doing badly. Now, I like to think that we do idea bombing well, but at least I have that in the back of my head if we ever do have a flop of an event. And, you know, people should hold on to that, because if you see value in it, chances are other people will too. So,
well, Emily Moscovitz and
following on for that,
Steph just has
other little bit of
right.
advice is just ask. It's amazing. When we first started, we just asked for everything, and people went, "Yeah, sure," and we're like, oh, "That just happened." So people understand that your heart and your energy and your focus and your values in the right place, so they're always willing to jump on board.
they can ask us if you need any advice.
Ask us, yeah.
Yeah, just reach out. That's really wonderful wisdom. Thank you.
Emily O'Sullivan, Stephanie Moscovitz, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Here at the Lunaticks Live, it's been a great discussion. Obviously, there's a lot more to explore here, and we're going to discuss that offline, as they say. But otherwise, thanks for joining us here for episode 17, series 3, episode 1.
Thank you to all of our guests for coming along tonight. Thank you to everyone tuning in on the interweb and for turning up at the Foghorn. We greatly appreciate the support, and we look forward to the next Lunaticks Live.
Absolutely, and a big shout out to everyone out there, and don't forget, follow us on
The Twitter.
And we're on the Facebook as well, and we're also there on Lunaticks Live on our website. Don't hesitate, we'll be back here next month. No,
the one after.
One after, yeah. See, I'm so eager to get out there.
Yeah.
But thank you very much here, coming to you live from the Foghorn Brewhouse. Thank you very much, and good night.
Good night. Thank you.